Hello, happy Friday. It's me, TK, and this is Coach on the Rocks. Lovely to have you here. And as always, thanks for joining. Give me a like, give me a shout where you're from, and how is your Friday shaping up to be? Feedback is important, and today I want to talk about feedback because we've just released the current episode of our podcast, Leading with Agility. Find it on your favorite podcast player. And the new episode is about recognition, especially around peer recognition, what you can get from it, what systems you can use, very interesting statistics, some new studies that we've gathered from the conference circuit, fresh off the press. So definitely give it a listen. Maybe a subscribe, a like, maybe even the review. If it's positive, if it's negative too, because what I wanted to talk about today is something different to what I've talked about and we've talked about on the podcast. Because recognition is obviously inherently positive. And it has all wonderful and great benefits that you can hear all about in our podcast episode. But what we haven't necessarily talked about, although I've mentioned it at the very end, is negative feedback. Yes, the dreaded negative feedback. Like, okay, well, it's all well and good, and we're talking a lot about giving recognition and positive feedback, but does negative feedback make sense? Should we use it at all? Is it something that, we should be comfortable in using as leaders, as members of the HR or people team, even as peers? I think it's an interesting question, right? Not many people like receiving and not many people like giving negative feedback. There are some that like receiving and there are some that like giving for various reasons, which, might feel strange. But essentially, it's not an easy thing to do for the majority of us. The reason is, it's not nice. And the majority of people don't like to be not nice. And why should we, right? What's the benefit of that? Maybe we're saying, well, maybe we should just stay silent. Maybe it's not our job to give negative feedback. And on the other hand, when we're receiving it, what many people react with is excuses, pushbacks. Like, no, it's not my fault. It's because of this and that. Like automatically. This is one of the most interesting things that some people have. Just like doesn't definitely make me happy when I hear that. It's like sometimes the excuses just come even if there's a hint of a comment, even if I'm completely not giving the person feedback. Some people just really automatically go into that. And thus it's difficult. But I do believe it has its place because as much as we can reinforce positive behaviors in certain situations, we will encounter behaviors, values, stances, actions that we will find are not congruent with what we want in the organization, what's productive, and so on and so forth. Or even it might impede on our personal boundaries. There's that too. And I think, negative feedback, it's something that needs to happen. And I think as the people team, as HR, it's our job and your job too, to help people understand how to do it skillfully, how to use the right models to not to be afraid to use negative feedback, and also to create systems in the organization that the negative feedback is something taken as it's supposed to be, which is with, positivity and the opportunity for improvement. It's really interesting with negative feedback. I remember working with a client not too long ago, and they have sent an email in preparation for like a status meeting we were having a week after. And they've sent the email on Friday afternoon with some raw feedback. And there were negative elements in that, and it spoiled me the entire weekend. I was going for like a miniature wargaming tournament, and I remember I received it when I was, stopping at a service station, along the way, reading the freaking email on Friday afternoon, I was like, nah, this and that, right? I was really angry, and I was angry for the entire weekend. Unwarranted. And I've talked with the person that actually wrote this email, and it was an interesting conversation. And really, I think I acknowledge the fact, yes, I was angry, but I understand, and I was really grateful for the feedback and the fact that you haven't filtered it, because it actually came from some third party, and it was helpful for me to understand how to improve. Getting angry about it was my choice, but I was happy that they made the choice to send the feedback. Either way, right? Despite the fact of how it might have made me feel. I don't know if they necessarily considered it, probably not. But nevertheless, even though I've shared it, I was grateful that they did it. So, even though the recognition in the organization is important for reasons, I would definitely recommend checking out our podcast so you can discover these. Negative feedback is important too, but it comes with consequences, right? If positive feedback comes with a bigger investment and in the company culture, the feeling of inclusiveness, the feeling of belonging in the organization, one could argue that the negative feedback can have the opposite effect. But I don't think it needs to be the case, right? What you can do is you can build a culture of giving negative feedback with care. I'm giving you the negative feedback not because I only dislike what you're doing and I'm doing it through this angry outburst of emotion and, trying to hurt you. I'm doing it because I care. I'm doing it because even knowing that it's difficult, I really think that you have an opportunity to improve, right? And I know that you might push back and it takes energy from me. The choice is remaining silent, especially with peers. And it's a very nasty choice to make for reasons that I've discussed on one of the previous episodes about denying people feedback. It's a choice that so many people make. And I think when we're using negative feedback, let's take it as something that we're really putting the effort in, right? Someone giving me negative feedback, despite the fact that it might seem like it's just an angry comment, it's actually done with care, especially in the workplace. Now, I don't know what you think about negative feedback. I would love to know in the comments. So, feel free to comment under this post. Or maybe if you don't like to comment, as many of you actually don't, send me a message, as many of you actually do, which is interesting. Anyways, have a listen to our podcast, Leading with Agility, in your favorite podcast player. And also, I would like to wish you all the best for the weekend. Refresh, get yourself grounded, touch some grass if you're in the northern hemisphere and the summer is starting to bloom. And as always, I will see you in the next working day, which is Monday at 9:45 British summer time. Bye bye.